Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co-host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast-producing badass.
I'm John Thomas. Some would say that I go a little too far with my love of all things horror, paranormal, and meta, but I say, talk nerdy to me, and I'm all yours.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our paranormal podcast pals out there? In today's episode, we'll be discussing all things paranormal, life after death, and the science of existence. Joining us in this discussion is actress, supernatural lover, and fellow podcasting badass, Kristen Amanda. Kristen is a host and creator of Paranorm Girl podcast. Welcome to 3Haunted, Kristen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It is an honor and a privilege.
We are equally honored and privileged to have you on.
And that bio, by the way, you complimented me on my bio when I had you on my show, but that rocked hard. I love that.
That was all John.
Good job, John.
I was trying to give her a tongue twister there, but yeah.
He tried. That's why I was like, let me tweak a few things. Okay, I'm good. He tried. There were a few in there that I was like, I'm going to trip over my own big tongue saying that.
You did well.
Thank you. But seriously, it is fantastic to have you on. I was on your podcast as a guest. Oh gosh, when was that?
Oh God. I mean, was that 6 months ago? It's been a minute.
I feel like I had, yes, I don't know. Yes, because I was still in California. I just remember that I had an amazing time. You are a phenomenal host. I left your podcast messaging John saying, holy cow, she did such a great job researching us and just engaging me and all of these things that I need to take some notes.
No, that was so much fun. I actually rewatched that a couple of weeks ago. I was going through some old footage and that was just so much fun. You know, you get those guests every now and then. You're just like, yes. Because sometimes you don't know until you're like 5 minutes in. You're like, okay, this is going to be a long one.
It's going to be one. We're going to get through it.
But yeah, you were awesome.
Thank you. It felt so natural. Like we have people on and they'll tell us afterwards how they felt. And, you hear things like, oh, okay, cool. But being in the reverse situation, sitting in the guest seat, it all clicks. It's like, oh my gosh, that really does make a difference. I do see what they mean when it's like, that was so comfortable. It was like just talking to a friend. And that's what it felt like. You made it a great experience.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And I want you back on too. One of these days. We'll just do horror films.
I was going to say I have more ghost stories for you.
Oh, I might have some new stuff. I don't know if I told you any of my stuff before, but I got some newer, more recent stuff to share.
I don't think we got to talk too much about because we had so much. Because you're an amazing host, you're like, tell me all about you. So
it's all about you.
And now I'm getting you on so I could hear about you. So let's I'm going to jump right in. And you created Paranorm Girl podcast. How long has that been going?
It will be 3 years coming up here March 10th. So yeah, it feels just like yesterday. Like it goes by so quick.
Happy anniversary.
Congrats. That's a big deal.
It is.
Thank you.
And the fact that she does it solo. She is a rock star.
Oh man, what I wouldn't give for just some help, and I think back, it was like easier at the beginning to do it solo for some reason. Like you got that like forward momentum and you're so excited about just everything. And then you start adding stuff on and there's all these, like, you want to get better and the quality's got to get better. And, at the end of the day, you're doing like a second full-time job and you're like, oh, this is exhausting. But I do have help. Now, I should say that. Somebody helping me with marketing. So right where I need it, social media.
That's huge. That's huge.
Oh
so
my gosh.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
What inspired you to start Paranorm Girl podcast?
Well, of course, the cliche, I've always had an interest in the paranormal. Uh, my mother, growing up, she was the one that really got me interested, fascinated, into it. Like we used to sit, like some of my earliest memories was sitting on her bed, like as we were getting ready to go to sleep, just listening to Art Bell and falling asleep to that melodic voice. So, and these were the things that we talked about. These were the conversations that my family had, just like, what do you think? What do you think happens after we die? Or have you heard about this? Blah, blah, blah. So that was just kind of fostered in me early on. And then, I got older and I went to college and moved away, and I was running with a different crowd, very logical, analytical based kind of crowd. And even though I still had that like passion for it, like that interest in it, I felt like I hadn't had these solidifying experiences that just made me just full on board, like fully believe in any of it. What if all of it's just garbage? Because I don't have that proof. I don't have that experience. And so fast forward to the pandemic, and I'd been wanting to like start a podcast like at some point, because I used to be an actor and I still had that bug. I want to perform, I want to share myself. And I like the paranormal. I don't know what I think about it. And I'd been listening to a bunch of those were the podcasts that I would listen to like for the years leading up to that, was always like true crime and paranormal podcasts. Like they were just my jam. So I was like, it's downtime now. We're in the pandemic. Maybe now's the time to just like start this and just see. Let's just see how it goes. And in a way, I can kind of like, if I can dive deeply enough into these subjects, like if I really break it down, just break it apart and dive into each of these subjects, maybe I will come to some sort of conclusion for myself, even though I've never had these experiences. Maybe this is the way I'll prove to myself whether or not, it's cap or whatever. And then, and so that's basically how it was born. But interestingly enough, after I started it and started like getting into it, like getting into other people, a lot of other people's experiences and hearing these types of stories, it started like registering in my brain, like, oh, I actually have experienced this before. Oh, that this weird thing really did actually happen to me. And it's not like memories suddenly came back to me, like they were always there, but it just kind of clicked in my head, like, oh my God, like I have experience. I know what this is. Like it is real. It is. And I know that it is. So that I think I answered your question somewhere in there, but that's basically how it was born, and Paranorm Girl and all of that. And yeah, it's just been a wild journey ever since. And more things have happened.
So, what experiences did you hear other people speak to that you realized, oh my gosh, like that's what that was?
Well, that I think the first thing that got me started was my first subject was shadow people. And I always had this memory of this thing happening, but it just didn't really like solidify for me until I got into this season. And I actually told this story on that season. It was just this thing that happened when I was like 14. I mean, if you want me to tell the whole story, it's a quick
Let's
one.
do it.
All right. And it's not necessarily a shadow person, but in my mind, like I was like, well, I mean, it could be, like, I don't know, I'm still learning about it. So the story goes, yeah, I was around like 14 or 15. I was in my bed asleep, and I like looked down at the foot of my bed. Well, I woke up and I looked down at the foot of my bed, and there was this like figure standing at the foot of my bed, but I could see like features of her, like she was like shadowy, like a lot of shadow like swirling around, but I could see like certain features of her, like jewelry that she was wearing, and like length of hair and like clothes she was wearing. And I was like, oh my God, I recognize her. That's my friend from school. And I was like, what the heck is she doing here? And so like I'm staring at her at the foot of my bed and like, what are you doing here? And she doesn't say anything. And it was just like the air was sucked out of the room in that moment, and she's just staring at me, doesn't say anything, it's dead silent, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's not my friend. Like, what is going on? And in my like foggy, I was kind of like half asleep, half awake, kind of in that foggy brain space. I was like, okay, I got to keep the conversation going so that this thing isn't on to me, that I know it's not my friend, that I know it's something else. And so I looked at her and I'm like, what time is it? And I recall she was standing just like right in front of me, and she turns her head down just slightly, looks right by, like at the time, right by the side of my bed, there was a table and like a lamp and a digital clock. And she looks down at it, looks back up at me. She's like, it's 3:51. And as soon as she says 3:51, like it was like being sucked back fully into sleep. And like, I'm screaming like, oh God, no, don't fall asleep. Don't, it's still there. As soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm like, it's like full awareness, like totally wake up, sit up, I'm breathing, I'm looking around, there's nothing in the room, nothing there at all. And I'm like calming myself down. I'm like, oh my God, what a weird dream. And I lay back down and I turn over on my side and I'm looking right at the clock and it says 3:51. So this memory stuck with me, but it was like, I guess you excuse these things away. Like, you're like, well, I mean, it's just your imagination. Oh, I had to have been dreaming, whatever. But there were things about that experience, like the clock, like, and it being right. I didn't know what time it was, and it was that exactly, like, and so it stayed with me. And it wasn't until I got into, other people's experiences with just strange figures and nighttime demons and stuff like that, and just seeing how many of these stories there are and how a lot of them were so similar to my own experience too. So that's when I started kind of connecting dots for myself.
So would you categorize her as a shadow person or
Yeah.
something else?
No, I used to, because I thought, yeah. I mean, she was mostly like shadowy, so I was like, well, yeah, that's got to be a shadow person. But the deeper that you get into a subject like that, and you start getting the descriptions of what a shadow figure actually is, like she was not a shadow figure. No, shadow figures are just like devoid of anything. Like, I wouldn't have been able to make out, features or jewelry or anything like that. So she was, I don't know, something else. There was a lot of kind of weird stuff that happened in that particular house. Like, that wasn't the only thing that happened, and it kind of just kind of supported the my overall acceptance that experience alone was something, because it was just on this pile of all this, just kind of other stuff. But yeah, no, she wasn't. I have not seen a shadow person. I told a story on TikTok recently. I've been close to them, but I have not actually seen one for myself.
Did you say you've been close to them?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I want to. Let's get into that.
I like that.
Like he was brushing up against you and was like, "Hey, man."
Hey, what's up?
No, it's creepy. So my partner and I, we every now and then we'll go do like ghost investigations. And recently we went over to St. Ignatius Hospital over in Colfax, Washington. And they do, they've opened it up like 10 years ago or so to, paranormal investigators. And then you pay like a nominal amount of money, and then you go in and you got like hours in there. You have your floors to yourselves, you go anywhere you want in the hospital. Like, they've really opened it up, and it's rad. So anyway, we went over there, and I think we were on like the second floor, like the second and third floor. Paranormal investigators will know, oh, those are really active floors. So we were on the second floor, and we were making our way down to the end of the hallway, and we had like checked out all the rooms as we were going down. And we got down to the very end, and there was a room on the right and a room on the left. And for whatever reason, I don't know what it was. I still don't know what it was, but the room on the right, it looked so freaking familiar to me. I don't know. I don't know. It rang all the bells. So I was like, oh my God, I got to go in there. So I split off from Lee, my partner. I go off to the room on the right, and he's like, okay, well, whatever. And he walks off to the room on the left, and he's investigating in there. And like, nothing, I don't know, nothing weird happened, except I started getting like sick, like nauseous, as I was, like shooting the camera around and like asking questions and stuff, I started getting nauseous and I started getting this like just headache out of nowhere. And so I was like, okay, well, I nothing's really happening. I gotta get out of here though, because I'm gonna puke. So I come back out just as Lee is coming out of his room, and he had felt something in his. So we were like, okay, well, let's switch sides. And so I went into his room, he went into my room, and then we came back out, and nothing really happened to him. He didn't feel anything other than just like a really creepy feeling in my room. So we start making our way back down the hallway and just like kind of like talking about our experience, and we get like 20 feet or so away from the rooms, and then all of a sudden we hear these like quick footsteps running up the stairs. There's a stairwell in the middle of the building. Quick footsteps run up the stairs. All of a sudden, like the event coordinator lady, she comes flying around the corner, and she's got this like look on her face, like just kind of, I don't know, just like excited and nervous, and she's like looking around. She's like, is there anybody else up here with you? And we were like, no, we've had the whole floor to ourselves for like an hour. And she's like, okay, well, I was just down at the monitors. They have this room set up with like this panel of monitors with all the security cameras around the building. And she had been watching us on one of the security cameras that was pointed right down the hallway. And when we got like 20 feet away or so, she says she watches this figure of a man like against the window, just run from my room into the room that Lee was in. Just this black figure. And she thought, I don't think she thought that we were alone up there. And I don't know, she might have thought it was a shadow person. So she'd probably come up and check on us. And so that's what she did. She came up and checked. But yeah, so I mean, there was nobody else up there. It was like a full figure, looked like a person, run from my room into Lee's room, which means that it was in that room with me like the whole time. And then, it was 20 feet behind us as it like, zipped into the other room, and I didn't see it. I didn't know it was there, but it was there. It was like right there. So that's like the closest I've been to a shadow person. It was there. External confirmation.
I think that's super cool that that they had the cameras and everything all set up too. It wasn't just here's an empty building, go do your thing. Like it's cool that they had an extra setup there. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Because some places
Yeah.
don't do that for you, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's nice to have that kind of like, the validation if they see something that happens to you while you're walking around. But yeah, unfortunately, they do have to have those security cameras up everywhere because, people be acting fools and stealing stuff and
People
sneaking
be
in when they're
tripping.
not supposed to be. Yeah, they'd be
Yeah.
tripping.
People be tripping.
Trying to steal
Now,
shit.
since she saw it on the cameras, do they have the recording of that?
I didn't even think to ask when we were there. I doubt it. I mean, it was like a couple months ago. I don't know. I should reach out and see. I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, like, if they do see stuff, that do they edit it out themselves and be like, "Hey, look what we have here. We had these people here,
Mhm.
and they didn't really see it, but we saw it on the cameras." And yeah, kind of post it for their own kind of stuff.
Put
That'd be
it on
kind of
their site.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Come
know.
one, come all, come
Now I
on
got to
down.
reach out. Yeah.
Just curious because it was on the cameras. So
Yeah.
I mean, they sure tell some wild stories at that location. A lot of stuff. It's a very active location.
So do you get like a big thrill out of this? Like what is the drive for those specific things as far as like shadow people or like haunts? Like what is the reason like you choose specific places? Is there something you're looking for specifically or
Oh, like choose certain places to investigate?
yeah. Is there
Oh,
anything that you're trying to connect with specifically or is it just kind of see what happens?
yeah. Yeah, so far things have just happened. It's just, with as dead as and boring as paranormal investigating is actually, it's not always like going off like that. Like you'll spend hours just sitting in silence and nothing happens, and it can be very boring. So yeah, it's just very exciting when something does happen. And I guess like why I specifically do it. Like my passion at the end of all of this, like my favorite subject to talk about and theorize about is life after death. And I guess in that way, like that's how I'm kind of trying to prove to myself and just really connect those dots for myself that there is existence after all of this. If I can just capture just one undeniable EVP or something quick on the camera or something that I just cannot explain, nobody can explain, that proves that there's something, there's something existing beyond all of this physical. So yeah, in that way, it's just, another way to search for answers. We don't really like investigate all that much. I do like to go when we can, but yeah, I think we've been on like five or six total, like, so not very many.
I think like the best kind of investigations are when you go to a place, you know that it's haunted, and you're just having a conversation with whoever you're with, because then stuff just automatically, not always, like you said, it happens. Like it happens around you regardless. I was on a team before we went to Waverly Hills, and we were setting stuff up, and I had my recorder going while we were just setting things up, and I had so many EVPs just from that first hour setting up cameras and equipment. And so yeah, so when you're not paying attention, it's like they're like, hey, we're here, this is what you're here for, pay attention to us, hello. So yeah, it's trippy.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have a question for my paranormal investigator friends, because I know in a few seasons ago, John, you mentioned that was why you investigated too, just knowing there's something after death. And so my question is, once you get that EVP, or once you get that concrete, what you feel is concrete, because it may be different for each investigator, proof that yes, this is life after death, what then?
Well, then um I think I feel like it's almost more important at this point to just get the proof for yourself, because then you'll know. Like there's no use in trying to like convince and everybody else. If people don't want to believe or look at your evidence or listen, then they don't have to. That's not on them. Like it's just, I think it's most important because now you have that undeniable proof. I mean, I don't know. Other people might feel differently about that, but
So then do you keep, I guess for me, when I ask what then, do you keep investigating? Do you keep hosting interviews to get people's stories? And does that path continue? I mean, because for me, you've heard my stories. I've had all sorts of paranormal experiences,
mm-hmm.
and I'm still the girl that's like, if it's real. I'm,
And that's what I
I'm
love about it.
stubborn.
Yep.
And it's fear. It's fear based. I will acknowledge that. But I oftentimes wonder for those that do believe it, in terms of like wholeheartedly, there is no fear, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
What that journey, like, do you just say, okay, I continue life and I'm in this present moment because I know there's something after, or I continue on finding more evidence and more proof? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I,
Yeah.
I, I don't think there's ever going to be an end to the search for answers or proof, though. Like, I mean, we're just talking about one thing, like life after death, but what about all this other cool stuff, like Bigfoot and UFOs, and there's so much
Yes.
to explore.
You're my Mulder. The Mulder to my Scully.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's definitely finding the answers for yourself, and also I'm going to be making a list of people who I'm going to be fucking with after I die, and who I'm going to visit. Like just because I'm going to have those lists, because I know that I can do it after this. I'm like, all right, cool. I can do something, and I'm going to go mess with some people. So
Ooh, do you really have a list? Do you have some
I
names
have a
in
couple
mind?
people. Yes, I do for sure. Not gonna lie, there's a
Nice.
list.
Nice.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That's concerning.
Don't worry, I won't scare you, Ash.
Um, my quick answer to that is that I think you just have more questions, right? Like once you've figured out the one thing, you're like, oh God, why is this spirit here? Like why is it this spirit and not other spirits? Like why all of you just, it just opens up more, right? And it's not just with paranormal ghosts and stuff. It's also like you were saying, Bigfoot and UFOs. And if you see something in the sky, like it just gets your imagination just running wild, and you just have so many more questions, and that feeds the passion, and then you just keep going harder and harder because you want more of it, right? And I think that's kind of, for me anyway, that's what it's all about, right?
So the search for the truth never ends.
No,
Never.
not really.
I want to, I do, and I will believe all of it.
I mean, I know we're going X Files here, but I was just curious because I know that as we continue in life, things that we're searching for and questions that we have, they're ever evolving. And so just curious where everybody goes from here. If like let's say hypothetically we go somewhere and we see a ghost and we talk to it and we high five it and we're like, yeah, you're real. Like what that looks like after. But I am with you. More questions to be had. Like, how could I high five a ghost? What was that about? So I went on a tangent.
I want to high five a ghost now.
I love a good tangent.
Yes.
You want to go find a ghost now?
High
Always
five.
ghosts
Yeah. Always.
He
and
wants a high five a
I
ghost.
want to high five
Oh,
a ghost.
high five.
or all of the things, all the cryptids, all of the aliens, all of the things
Yes.
that we don't have confirmation on. And that's one thing I think that you have been delving in, that's really awesome. um I looked at some of your episodes recently about like Bigfoot and stuff. I don't know if we want to just jump into that. I didn't know if there was something else we wanted to get into before, but um I'm pretty fascinated with it, with the Bigfoot stuff, because of I studied anthropology in college, and the
Oh,
fossil record, and did learned about gigantopithecus and all the australopithecines and all that kind of stuff. And I found it very interesting. Like, is Bigfoot variation off that, an offshoot from the Neanderthals or something? Did it something that survived, or is it something completely different from a different dimension? And I find that kind of stuff pretty fascinating.
yeah. The argument that has been made that Bigfoot could be Gigantopithecus is pretty convincing. Grover Krantz talked a lot about that, and it makes sense. I'll say that it does make sense, but man, I love the whole. I mean, you veer right off the path there when you get to talk about like interdimensional Bigfoot and jumping through portals, and there's UFOs involved for some reason. That stuff just fascinates me to no end. I just had a really great guest on that had a bunch of experiences like that. He's a Bigfoot researcher, but that's where he leans, is that they use telepathy, and they're a lot smarter than you think. Like, they're smarter than we are, and they are interdimensional and can disappear like that. And when I hear somebody talking about it like that with as much passion as he has and as much experience as he has with it, it's like, that really gets me thinking, like, maybe this isn't so simple as just Gigantopithecus. I don't know. Don't nobody come at me, because it's still the middle of my season. I haven't gotten there yet. But I'm looking at it all, considering it all.
Well, because you're going to Squash Fest, right? Is that what you're
Mhm.
doing now or coming up?
Yeah, I'm coming. That's happening at the end of the month. Yeah, January 26th on the west side.
Is so terrible question, but is this something that you dress up for? Like what do you, like what do you do I've never been to one, and I should.
I've never been to one either, so I don't know. I hope we don't have to dress up, because I don't have anything. No, I think it's just a convention, just a regular like paranormal convention. You can dress up if you want to, I guess.
I do have an old Alf costume that might work.
Oh,
That might be
nice.
it's alien, it's covered in hair, and It's close
That
enough.
works. You're tall. You could be Bigfoot. Why not?
Yeah.
I honestly sometimes think that maybe it's not just one or the other. Maybe it's
Mhm.
both. And so, why can't Gigantopithecus also be something that goes with in and out of the portals and have all of these things? Because we all came from a similar ancestor. Maybe we weren't the only ones that had that big bursts of evolution. And maybe theirs looked different than ours. And because we have seen it, like if you look at the timelines of like just all of the different, whether it's Australopithecus, Homo habilis, like all of it, a lot of them crossed over in the timelines. And there's been some fossils found late recently that shows there might have been some interspecies
Mhm.
mingling going on because we're close
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
And so I do wonder if maybe there is something out there because we're the only ones that survived out of all of those different species over the timeline. I don't know. I can't believe we were the only ones that evolved. Maybe they evolved differently. Maybe they survived. Maybe they found a way to survive in a way differently than us. And who knows?
Yeah, yeah, and that is kind of a mystery, I believe. Anthropologists still don't really understand, like what was it about, the modern day man that why are we still here and these other are not? Was it disease? Was it famine? I, I don't know. Like, because there were a bunch of us, like, back when we were crossing over in the timelines, that, a bunch of humans that were walking on two legs. That's what makes us human. So it's not that. It was something that happened much later. Yeah, it's still a mystery, but they are finding some really cool stuff. Like what you were just saying, I was just reading about this awesome thing. And it was, oh, shoot, where was it? I don't know. They found these footprints of like modern humans, but were really, really, really old. And they found them in the mud. And then they were finding these other prints that at the time, the researchers were like, oh, that's just a little bear. That's a bear print. Upon closer inspection, no, it wasn't. It's another form of human that was around at the same time as these modern day humans were there, but it's a human that we have not connected the dots yet. They don't know what it is. So we literally, scientists are considering footprints of something that they are, speculating is a human. It is a human, but they don't know what it is. Kind of like Bigfoot. We have these footprints, we have this evidence, and we're speculating that it's this creature, but we don't have the bodies. Oh, I don't know. I was trying to form an argument as to like why we can't consider like Bigfoot's footprints as evidence. Why can't that be good enough? And yet over on this, like when we're looking at these human footprints, well, obviously that's a human, even though we don't know what, like species it was. I don't know. Something I'm working on.
Maybe it's the fossilization versus like mud prints.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, especially when we're talking about like 30,000-year-old footprints, it's like, well, they weren't trying to trick anybody.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, you do have to consider the people that do run hoaxes and cons, like with the crop circles,
Mm-hmm.
which is unfortunate because there are real crop circles where everyone's like, I really don't know how that was formed, how that happened. That's not possible. But then you have the people doing the hoaxes that kind of messes it up for the rest of it. And I think that
Yeah.
happens with the footprints too. I have no doubt there are footprints out there that we cannot explain.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the people that do the hoaxes, and it's like, there's a size 30 footprint, but there's like a Nike kick swoosh on the bottom. And it's like, dang it. They
Oh,
had to
that
go
makes
and
me
mess it
laugh.
up.
When I was researching you and your what you were talking about with all of the things with Bigfoot, I thought about, what if there's somebody who's, trying to hoax Bigfoot and it pisses Bigfoot off? Like if Bigfoot actually sees somebody, trying to like, do, do the things and fake it. It's like, is that what draws Bigfoot out? Like what actually draws Bigfoot out? Because I feel like with ghosts and stuff, I mean, you don't want to do that. You don't want to piss off ghosts. You don't want to piss off any entity. Like you shouldn't anyway. But Is it similar with these cryptids? Like, is it something that maybe you shouldn't try to, piss them off, or is it just random?
Look, I'll be honest, BJ, I'd rather piss off a ghost over a Bigfoot or a chupacabra any day. Because a ghost
Absolutely.
may slam some shit around, but like Bigfoot can squash me. Like
Yeah.
I'll be the sass squash. Like that's not I don't want to mess with those. Or a chupacabra, like it'll take my head off.
Right. Yeah. No thanks. No thanks.
Can you draw Bigfoot out by pissing it off? Is that basically okay? No, I don't know. I don't That's funny, but I don't think so because I don't think he wants nothing to do with us. This thing is so dang elusive. Like and the sight, I don't know, it's just so rare to even see one. Like you might see one once. And if you ever see one, you might see one once in your life. But yeah, if it were that easy, I would not be above pissing one off just to bring it out and prove it, prove it for everybody.
Look, I'm just going to be honest. Like, sex talks across every species. We just got to go out and send a mating call. I don't know what the Bigfoot mating call is, but whatever it is, that's what we send out.
It's
Yes.
probably terrifying.
So that's Chewbacca.
That's I need to research that now. That is some.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I love that
For sure.
idea because,
I'm just saying, mating calls work for every species.
and if
Yes.
it does work, what do you do then?
Don't wear your elf costume. Just joking.
Yeah.
Oh,
Say, oh, I have a headache. I'm sorry.
Not today. I have a headache.
Not today. But say cheese.
Cheese and run. There you go. Got it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I'll be sacrificial lamb to piss him off, and
Mating call it.
you guys can be sacrificial lamb for mating calls.
I vote BJ.
What's his idea?
okay.
He'll wear the outfit. Okay. He's like, if I get to see a Bigfoot, yes.
Yeah, that's the other question. Real quick, if you do run into a Bigfoot or any kind of cryptid, and you die from it, like, was it worth it?
That's kind of on you, was it? Like, I don't know.
It's like the tree falls in the woods question. Like, if nobody was there to hear it, like, did it really make a sound? Like, we still don't know Bigfoot exists if it killed you.
Right? Like, you'd be the only one that would
Unless
know.
you come back as a ghost and
Uh-huh.
in the EVP tell us Bigfoot's real.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Bigfoot did it. Like, I need you to write in a
He
little
killed
tree.
me.
That's the only
Bigfoot did
message. Bigfoot is real, and it
Yes.
killed me.
Yes.
Get revenge, please.
Get revenge.
Well, I know that you guys just had that video. I think they did like confirm it was not a it was a hoax, but yeah, that somebody had done it. But that video, remember on the train,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
caught
yeah.
it
I
on.
remember that.
Yeah.
I'm so out of the loop.
I think there was a Bigfoot running in the field. Is
It's
that what it
okay.
was?
Yeah, somebody was
Yeah.
on the train. Yeah, it was like a month ago or something like that. Yeah, a couple months.
I follow more of like the UFO articles.
Yeah.
Mhm. I find myself missing the UFO stuff, man. That subject just bit me, And I went into that not really knowing any of it, like much of it, but there's just something so convincing, so compelling about it. And then like all this stuff happened last year, just like one thing after another, with the culminating in the Grush and the hearings and the TV show. And it was just like, oh,
Mhm.
this is magical. I love this so much.
This is history in the making.
That is one topic I am 100% certain. Absolutely. I'm on board.
Have you seen a UFO?
No, I have not seen a UFO and I want to so bad. That would be a cool experience. I want to be abduct me. Let's go. Let's do this.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
Why
yes,
do
yes.
we say that?
I don't know, because I just think like we've heard all the different spectrums of what alien encounters could be like. So
Mhm. I want one of the nice abductions.
yeah.
Right.
I'm not down with anal probing. So now, have you had an out of body experience?
Yes, I have.
Do you want
Yes.
to tell us about that?
Sure, I'll share it. It's the most boring out of body experience you'll ever hear about, but it was a profound experience for me. Um, I this happened. When was this? It was in the middle of the UFO season, actually, so not too long ago. And my partner had gotten COVID, so we were like quarantining in our house, and I was actually sleeping here on the floor, just camping out in my studio. And I was up really, really late one night, like researching for the next week's episode. And I finally closed the laptop. I was like, okay, I gotta go to sleep. So I closed the laptop, laid down, and I'm just like I had been researching and going at it for so long. My body was just exhausted. I was just drained. Okay. And I lay down, turn off the lights, lay down, and I'm laying there just like relaxing and waiting for sleep to kind of take me over. And as I'm laying there, I'm like going over in my head all this information that I had just learned and like asking questions to myself about it and just like, oh, that was a weird thing, blah, blah, blah. And like going over details. And I was doing this in my head for so long. Like I could feel myself falling, like my body falling asleep. I was doing this for so long. Like it got to a point where I was like, wait, shouldn't I be asleep right now? Like I was in my head thinking like perfectly lucid thoughts, totally in control of my cognitive functions, but my body was asleep. Like I felt like just the most relaxed I've ever been in my life. And so at this point, like realizing that I think my body's asleep and my mind is awake, I know this is a good state. I wonder if I could get out. and so and so all I did was I was like, okay, I'm going to try. I went through all the ways in my mind, like, okay, how do people say that they get out of their bodies? I think the easiest way that you can do is just roll out. So I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this is what this is. Roll to my left. And as soon as I thought that, I felt myself rolling out. It is the weirdest friggin' feeling I have ever had in my life. Rolling out of my body to my left. And I rolled all the way so that I was shoulder to shoulder with my own body. Like I could sense it right there and just staring into carpet. And I could feel the space between me and the floor. Like I wasn't touching anything, wasn't touching the floor. I hate to say hovering, but I wasn't, I wasn't in a physical body and I was just staring into carpet. And I wasn't out very long. Like the whole experience of like transitioning from that to out was like it was like electrifying. Like I was just being electrified, like this whole like wave of energy from my feet to my head. It's indescribable what it felt like. So anyway, I'm out and I'm like, okay, what, I'm out. Like, what do I do? Like, I'm afraid. These thoughts just started coming to me. Like, I'm afraid. I could hear my body doing this weird, like breathing, like wheezing thing next to me. And that terrified me. And then the thought was, there's a shadow person right above me. It's going to be in the corner. If I look up, I'm going to see it and I'm not going to know what to do. And at that point, I was like, get back in, get back in, get back in. And so I rolled back over and like settled into like sunk into my body fully. And it was like, the feeling was like being below the surface of water, just dark water, and like fighting to get to the top, to like come back fully to like physical consciousness. And that's what it felt like. And I woke up like fully, like after it was all over, I woke up, just sat up. I was like, holy, that could not have that just happened. That just happened. And then that was it. I mean, that was basically the experience. And what's interesting is the next morning, I woke up and got on the internet and I was like, just researching like astral projection and like certain things that happen during astral projection. And one, a lot of people do see shadow figures while you're astrally projecting. And the other thing that just really weirded me out, I didn't know before, was that a lot of people report audio hallucinations. And the author explained it as, oh, that's an attempt for the astral plane to like get you back in your body. It doesn't want you there, so it'll do like chains dragging or something knocking on your door. And I think that's what the breathing thing was. Like I could hear myself breathing like that, and it was just like gulping for breath. And I think that's what it was. But yeah, that's it. I mean, that was my out of body experience. But it was very solidifying for me. It was very convincing to me that you can exist outside of physical form.
Kristen,
Yes.
this entire season, this same topic has randomly been coming up. We don't drive to it, like it just surfaces. The connection between sleep paralysis and astral projection and that in between. And the thing I told the guys, oh my gosh, months ago, I was working with a client who is not part of this. She's a voiceover actress. This is not her world. And we got on, we're sitting there kind of just chatting on a break, and she's telling me, well, it's more like she's asking me because she's like, you have a podcast about this? Ooh, what do you talk about? And I'm telling her everything. And she's just like, oh my gosh, I love that. And she's like, I've never experienced that, but I did have a friend tell me that if you're trying to astral project and you wake up in sleep paralysis, you just roll out of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she's like, yeah. So if you find yourself in sleep paralysis, the next step is roll out. So the fact that you just, as you're telling me the story, and you're like, so I was thinking, what do I do? I'm like, she's going to say it, isn't she? And you're literally, that's why John was like, oh my gosh, literally roll out of my body. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Whoa, I've never heard that before. So like sleep paralysis as a precursor to
Apparently that is the transition point. So
Wow.
between that is one of the transition points is to be between sleep and the waking world. Sleep paralysis is the transition world. And so that
Whoa.
is the space where you roll out or climb out or whatever. But for me, I'm like, okay, universe, I'm listening. You keep saying the same literal words, roll out. And so, holy cow, that's the
Oh, that's
serendipity
nuts.
is insane.
It never gets old.
Do any of you battle with sleep paralysis?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. Except I'm terrified of astral projection. I just never knew that was considered the in-between space. And I was always afraid of it. But then when this completely random, unassociated person, or not random, not associated to this world, is saying, yeah, did you know that's where you astral project? I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Wow. Well, you got to try next time.
I don't know.
Right. Sleep paralysis isn't that
Just
fun.
don't immediately think of shadow people or other creatures because you freak yourself out.
What's interesting to me is you just mentioned the auditory stuff. And I feel like when I am in sleep paralysis, I am a person who hears sound intensely. So for me, now I'm backtracking and thinking, oh my gosh, was I in the astral plane all of those times? And it's like, get out of here. Here's all these unbearable sounds. I've heard literal growling at me, like
Ooh.
loud growling coming from like behind my head, like on the wall, like the wall behind my head. And I'm like, I can't move. I can't look back. Oh my God, I'm about to be eaten.
Oh, no. God, that would be terrifying. I'm so sorry.
So it makes sense though, where it's like, hey, you don't belong here. Get back in your body. So
Ooh. Yeah. I am so sorry. I never really experienced like sleep paralysis before, or anything that I would have ever equated to that. But that is so interesting. You taught me something so interesting tonight. Thank you so much, Ashley. You always teach me interesting things, though. Your show is amazing.
you taught me. We're teaching each other. Now, you said you do have a relative that has been kind of visiting you in a spiritual form since early last year, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, my brother-in-law passed away back actually the end of last January, so it's almost been a year. And I don't know how much of that did I mention to you. There's a lot to it, so I could just hit the highlights.
I think it was a small snippet because I really did just like totally isolate your show. with like all these ghost stories. So
All right, all right. So the highlights are, um, yeah, the night that he passed away, just massive. We were all together at his house, like my sister's house, and just massive amounts of electrical just difficulty and like lights turning on and off and the security system like arming itself and just really weird stuff. A lot of electrical malfunctions, to the point where it was like, this is not normal, not, whatever. Now, one of the big highlights, which is the other thing I'll tell you about it, was 3 times since he died, this has happened to me directly. And it's always preceded a day that something really important has happened. And it's been the lights in my car are always turned to auto. I've literally never touched the knob to turn them off ever. And the night that he died, I had to get in my car and go grab my sister's kids, and my lights were turned off. I was like, oh, huh, that's weird. Okay, fast forward a couple of months. I went to get in my car. The lights were turned off, and it was because I wasn't supposed to go home. I was supposed to stay with my sister. And then this happened like recently. This happened one more time the day before Thanksgiving. And it was just, I was just doing errands or whatever. I went to get my car. The lights were off. I was like, I've never touched this knob before. Like, it's a whole like knob. You have to like turn like that. And so I knew that something was coming up. And that night, my sister had electrical malfunctions, like just crazy for like 20 minutes straight, like lights flickering, TV going on and off, just really weird stuff. And so, we made the connection that it was him, but he's always like kind of forewarning me about things with this because he knows I'll notice it, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, it's been an interesting year.
anytime we experience things with our electrical or like TV or anything like that, we joke it's our ghost, it's our haunting of non-essential electronics.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
We still have it happen. It's still a thing.
Wow. Wow. Still going on, huh?
Yeah, new house, new state. It's not as frequently, but there's definitely like things that still kind of little things here or there, and it's like, oh, okay.
Just enough to let you know they're there. Well, good thing
Just
it's it's
okay.
not like a bad, evil feeling, it's chill. It sounds chill.
Honestly, nowadays, mostly if I do, for me, I think it's funny because it's like, I know you guys are here. You don't need to mess with things. Like, I can feel you. And oftentimes, if I do feel things nowadays, it feels curious,
Hmm.
not bad. It's more like, when someone just like peeks their head over, like, you there? That's what that kind of feels like. Hey, you in there? Okay, cool. And it's like, yes, I'm here. You can go now.
Yeah.
Just feels
Well, I don't know.
curious, I guess.
Yeah. They must be very curious about you or care about you. Maybe it's a connection that you've never thought of before.
Ooh, look at
Mm.
you giving me some things to think about. Look,
I I got to outdo your sleep paralysis education. I got to outdo it.
look, everything you talk about, you are so well spoken and you research everything so in depth. Like, we learn everything from you.
Thank you.
Now, I do have to tell you, because you like the spooky, I do have to tell
Mhm.
you one story.
Okay.
Because the episode is not out yet, so I'm gonna give you the highlights. So we were doing an episode on Day of the Dead, and we were talking about. Uh, did it happen with the previous one, John? The exorcisms? I think we started talking about
Yeah.
Santa Muerte, which is the Lady of Death.
Yes.
And
I love
it
that episode, by
started
the way.
in thank you. But that night, I felt something in my hallway. And I'm in my bedroom and I'm like, you're not allowed in here, go away. And I could feel that it wasn't like curious, like, huh? It felt more like something was just waiting. And I'm like, nope, you're not, nope, not in here. And leave the kids alone. And I went to bed, woke up briefly, and I could feel something in the corner of like the foot of my, like in my room. I could feel it. And I'm like, I repeated, get out. You're not welcome in here. and I went back to sleep. And I could feel it just kind of like looming. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, go away. And then I woke up again. And I was sleeping on my side, facing my side table. And this time I opened my eyes, and this is not sleep paralysis. I could move, I could scream, which I did. Uh, there was something crouching on my side table, and it was flowing like it was almost, if you've ever seen Harry Potter, it almost looked like a Dementor, but with like very female hair. And like,
Oh,
yeah, so
no.
it was feminine, but it had like flowing almost robes. And it like reached out to grab me. Like she lunged almost to grab me, and I pushed away. Like I defended. I don't know what I thought I was gonna do, but I'm like, nope. And I screamed as loud as I could.
Whoa. Whoa. I have questions.
And I was awake. It was not sleep paralysis. She said, I have
No.
questions. It wasn't sleep paralysis. And it was also because of the buildup. If it had been just that, but the fact that I felt it before I even went to bed, but I wasn't even sleepy yet. And then I felt it waking up in the middle, like, okay, it's over there, go away. And then it's lunging at me, and I'm actually like, I had woken up, I could move, and it just trying to block it from clutching me. It was
Whoa.
so weird. And Keith woke up and he heard me scream. But the weirdest thing is usually if I have a nightmare, he'll pat me or try and calm me down. His automatic reaction was to grab my hand for some reason, like hold on to me. And I'd reached back and grabbed his. So I'm like, what was that about? And he's like, I don't know. And just in that moment, I just felt like I had to grab you because you were like, there was something going on. And I'm like, huh, that's different. He's never
Whoa.
reacted that way. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
weird. I'm like, you're trying to keep me from being dragged to hell, I guess. I don't know.
Well, so did he, so he didn't see anything that night, but like, did he feel the lead up to it too? Like, does he get
Mm-mm.
that
He
sensitivity?
didn't.
No, no. That's
Not
right.
typically.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So
wow.
I figured you could appreciate that.
I love that story. Thank you. That spooked me the hell out, and I am alone in my house right now, and I'm just like getting like woo,
Oh no.
like goosebumps. That is
Sorry.
freaky. No, that's like old haggish, like night demon kind of like that imagery. That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, the first word that came to mind for me the next day was like wrath, like a wrath.
Ooh, ooh,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well,
I was
it
like,
hasn't
there will be
happened
no hags in
since,
this
right?
house. No, but the interesting thing is I eventually told the kids about it because they had asked, why did you scream? And I wouldn't tell them, but I finally told them. And my middle son actually told me, oh, I've seen her before. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you what? And he's just like, yeah, when I was laying down to go to sleep one night, I saw her in the hallway outside of my room. And I was like,
Oh
what the
no.
hell? It's like, I hope that's not a thing.
And
Oh
this is in your new
no.
place, right?
I would think you would have felt it.
No, that was in an old place. I don't know. When he told me that, I'm like, oh shit. All I could think of was Insidious. Like, like the creature that just follows them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
nope.
Oh
You
no.
are not allowed
Oh,
here.
No.
poor kiddo.
Or as Keith says, you are not welcome here.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Did you have I think you said you had a question. Was there a question about that?
Gosh, I had a lot of questions all very suddenly. I think, oh, you know what? As dumb as it might be, did you feel anything when you went to push it away? Did you feel a resistance?
No, because like in that moment, I had pushed and
Hmm.
reached back. So when he grabbed me, it's like I briefly turned, and when I looked back, she was gone. So,
Oh, gotcha.
um,
Okay.
but I will say I was definitely awake. It was not sleep paralysis because I wouldn't have been able to push away if it had been
Hmm.
sleep paralysis. So,
Hmm. Yeah. The key term being paralysis. Yeah.
Exactly. But now I will not sleep on that side. I actually, it's kind of left a little bitter kind of feeling for me. So I won't sleep facing that way. And I actually will turn to the side and put a pillow behind me. Like, you will take the pillow before you take me to hell.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say that you made Keith sleep on that side instead.
No, he might like she'd be on his side. She's following me.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I think the pillow will be it's a good fortress, good good protection against the evil paranormal.
It's all intention, right? And it was a very specific time of the year. We were approaching Day of the Dead, and who knows what that was in that moment, but I definitely was impacted by that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how much do you think? I don't want to go off on a tangent or anything, but like, I wonder how much do you think like the paranormal is a byproduct of our psyches? Like we're creating these experiences, like we're giving them form.
I mean, that's a good question because I think we've briefly touched on that too, that by talking about these things, are we essentially being open and calling in more?
Mm.
For me, because I grew up with that and I didn't want it, and I'm like, close it down, shut it down, and it never would. I don't know because it's like, for me, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, it's there anyways. Here's what I will say for me specifically. All of my experiences up until we started the podcast have never swayed positive or neutral. It's always been negative. Since we have started the podcast and I've explored this world more, how to protect myself, how to elevate the vibration, and every lesson we've come across, I've had more positive and neutral interactions and experiences and encounters than I ever had before. Little lady hag aside, like, everything else has mostly been neutral or even positive. We had like a Grampy ghost we talked about on yours. And it's like,
Yeah.
so I think for me, having these conversations is good. It's actually helped me shift those experiences because I'm going to have them one way or another
Mhm.
in a positive direction. So that was a long winded answer.
No, I love that.
Yes, that's crazy. I was just thinking about that whole do we manifest this stuff this morning as well. So that's kind of funny that you brought it up.
Oh, what was that in regards to? What were you talking about or thinking about?
I don't know, actually. I was listening to your podcast. I was listening to the Mandela effect stuff because that's what
Mm.
I've been most interested in. But yeah,
Yeah, the Mandela effect stuff, man. Like that
that's
that was
trippy
another just
stuff.
like trippy, just so trippy.
Yeah.
And it totally just went way off the rails, like in ways I couldn't have foreseen, like talking about simulation theory and just all this
Yeah.
crazy stuff. Yeah, that was a favorite subject. Yeah.
I would love to get into all of that.
Mandela effect. I think of
Yes.
Sinbad all the time.
Kazam.
Every time I
Shazam.
Shazam,
Shazam,
Kazam,
all
Shazam.
the
Yeah.
All of
time,
it.
every
Mhm.
time,
Yep.
because I've been doing research on it, and I think I know why that movie doesn't exist,
But
but
it
why
does.
people think it exists.
Let's check. How many of you swear you heard of the Shazam movie, whether it was a movie trailer or you watched it?
I've seen the trailer. I swear to
It's
God.
all of
Mhm.
us. We're all from the
Yep.
same
Yes.
timeline. So
Yes.
what's your theory, BJ?
So I you know how when you would rent VHS tapes and they would have trailers for movies, right?
Mhm.
And so when Kazam came out, there were trailers for Sinbad movies before that film. So, like First Kid, I don't know if you guys remember that. It was
Of
Sinbad.
course I do.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was basically a bodyguard for the first kid, and so yeah, so it was a ridiculous movie. But anyway, that I saw not too long ago, but I was like, okay, maybe my brain is thinking that that's the connection because it was a trailer before I saw this film, that maybe, and then I also thought that maybe it was also Space Jam, and then now Shaq is doing a film, that I connected it that way too, because I was thinking it was the second time there was a professional basketball player doing a film, and then Sinbad got kind of mixed in with that. That's the only thing I can come up with, but honestly, it's probably more crazy than that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Absolutely. I guess I give it a little more credence, just because there's so many people who specifically remember a movie starring Sinbad called Shazam. Like, so many people, hundreds upon hundreds. And then, like, the Mandela effects, like one of my top all-time favorites, and is like I can't deny the Mandela effect because of this Mandela effect, is the Fruit of the Loom logo. You can show me a picture side by side of what the Fruit of the Loom logo, actually is today, compared with what I and thousands of other people remember it being, with the cornucopia in it. And I will always pick the cornucopia picture. That is what that logo is. And they like to argue it like, yeah, well, it's fruit, and it belongs in a cornucopia and pilgrims and Thanksgiving. Like, no, 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 no. I didn't know what a cornucopia was. Like, I wouldn't just imagine that. Like, I remember.
I totally remember it because like you, I didn't know what a cornucopia was. I'm like, what the hell is that brown, weird looking thing that's there?
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, what kind
Yeah.
of fruit is that? Like, what? Like, I don't.
Oh wow.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That and or Jif, or right, like
Yes, that
Jiffy.
peanut butter. Yes,
Jif,
for
yes.
real.
Wait, what's the one on that one?
It's not
Jif
Jiffy. It's just Jif,
Jif peanut butter.
which you can see now. But I mean, sure, logos change and they change their names, but I don't think that's what happened. I think, yeah, I don't know.
Do you think that's just us mixing like Jiffy the corn mix with Jif peanut butter because they were so close?
I
No.
mean, there's all kinds of explanations as to why people remember Jif. Like, there was a popcorn. I can't remember. There was a bunch of things that, like how we could have mixed it all up, but like, this will just make you mad. Stouffer stovetop stuffing.
Yeah.
Tell me you remember that, Ashley.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
do.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, that's not a thing.
What?
What?
Stop it.
What do you mean
Stouffer's
it's not a thing?
They had it in
Stouffer's
commercials.
stovetop stuffing.
It's
Stouffer's.
just stovetop? What is it?
No, it's
Just
another brand.
no.
Type it
No.
into Google right now.
I am. I'm Googling
Oh
it.
my
I'm
goodness.
asking the Google.
Yeah, no.
But
F
why?
that.
But why would that change? Like, you think about the
Right.
Mandela effect, and it's like these stupid things,
I
right?
know. I
It's all the
I
know.
mean,
stupid things. Bernstein, the freaking
except for
peanut
Nelson
butter.
Mandela, right?
Yeah.
But maybe it's not stupid. Maybe in that different timeline. No, because we see it in movies where small things cause
Yeah,
big changes. So maybe in that
absolutely.
timeline, craft doesn't exist because Stouffer's ruled. And that changes all sorts of people's lives. I don't
Right?
know. To us, it's little, but maybe that would meant something else.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
Sinbad is like a real like big person in the nether worlds or something. Like he's the president or something. Who knows? I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I don't know. Yeah, but as little as these changes are, I mean, they all have to do with things that are like so impactful to you, like culturally speaking, and
Yeah.
nostalgically speaking. Like, these are things of your childhood, or like major art pieces, or just really, I don't know, iconic kind of brands and things. So as small as they may seem, they are actually quite large, big changes. Yeah.
I think it would be interesting. I don't know if you guys watch Black Mirror, or I love the idea of, future technology and memories, right? Being able to, there's one episode where it just records all of your memories throughout life. You can see everything, it just records it, right? So you're never going to have a situation where you can't just look back and see actually how it was. And so that way is there a Mandela effect? Or because if we have this technology, you can just go back and check, and then if there's something different, then you would know, right? Because our memories are flawed, right? And anytime you think about something and you remember something, it is not that memory, it's not an actual thing, it is your recreation of it now, based on where you're at now. And it's always changing. It's kind of the same, but also like a little different. So I don't know, and I think that would be it would cause a lot of problems. Obviously, I think because I think humans in general may be a good idea to not remember things so vividly. I feel like that might cause some issues down the line with our species. Maybe it is something an evolutionary thing that we don't remember things so vividly. I don't know.
Hmm, I don't know.
It's weird to think about, but I don't know.
I don't know, because then I think we lose our ability to be dream warriors. Because if we can't remember our things vividly, memories, dreams, then we can't dive deeper into it and, I guess, weave it, for lack of a better term. Like when you can remember detail by detail by detail into your dreams, you start to be able to control your dreams. And so if we start to lose the ability to remember as vividly all those things we talked about, astral projection and all the lucid dreaming, like maybe that is in jeopardy.
Yeah, I don't know. This went so
Kristen,
deep.
do you lucid dream?
I have accidentally for like a second.
How does that happen by accident? That's
I don't know. I don't know. Supposedly there's certain things you can do in your, like, if you do it in your dream, that will, like, heighten the chances that it will turn into a lucid dream. You can certainly train yourself to lucid dream.
yeah.
And I talked to a really cool astral projector, like he'd been doing it for like 30 years. And he also like specifically lucid dreamed all over the place. And he got to choose like what experience he got to have every night. But yeah, he had like ways in his book, or whatever, that you could specifically lucid dream, or you can remind yourself if you want to train yourself. You can like give yourself a sign in your dream that as soon as you see it, that's what like reminds you. Oh yeah, okay, now we're lucidly dreaming. Cool, I'm gonna go fly.
There it is. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I always fly whenever I do lucid dream. I love it.
Kristen, this has been an amazing episode, and I can't believe the time has flown by so quickly.
It sure has.
Where can people find more about you and your amazing badass podcast?
Oh my. Well, you can catch me on any podcast platform, any of them. I'm there. I'm also on YouTube at Paranorm Girl Pod. And that is also the handle for all of my socials. I am on all of them at Paranorm Girl Pod.
Now, our final thought for this evening. I usually ask, do we have any? But I actually have a final thought for us. It's more of a final question. What is your favorite horror movie?
28 Days Later.
Oh, that's a solid movie.
Right? Oh, it's not just my favorite horror movie. It's in my top like 10 favorite movies. Yeah.
Phenomenal. So zombies is your genre, or just that
No,
specific?
just that one.
I love that. That's awesome.
I like kind of end of time, like end of the world kind of dystopian-ish like
Okay.
settings. So maybe that's why. Maybe I like it like that.
End of times freaks me out.
It
So we're
does.
on
Yeah.
the contrast there. When I was a kid, I used to lay in bed. Literally, I should not have been having these thoughts as a child, but I used to lay in bed wondering, like, when the earth ends, what happens? When the sun explodes,
Oh,
what happens? And like I would put myself into a full panic attack thinking about these things. And it's like, oh, well, if we live eternity, like, what is that? We just go on forever and ever and ever and ever, and there's no end. Like, I was that weird child.
man, that is some existential dread for such a young mind.
Oh yeah, I was very young at happening, and we wonder why I have nightmares. So, all right, John and BJ, do you have any final? You want to answer your favorite movie?
I would say lately it would be Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, because obviously we have covered a lot in the past season about dreams, and Kristen, we actually have been covering. I just had a dream on Day of the Dead kind of thing, and where I actually was in the world of The Walking Dead and Rick Grimes, and went to heaven, came back, and it was an out of body experience. So I had all of the things kind of we talked about today, all at once in this dream about on Dia de los Muertos just this past year. And yeah, and so my whole um I love anything that has to deal with dreams and being able to control them and just the imagination that's involved. And I do keep a dream journal, and so anything that we're able to that film wise has dreams in it, I'm all for it.
Nice. That sounds like an epic dream, dude.
I left my body. I didn't know who I was when I came back. I was in my bed. I was literally, it took me about 2 minutes. The thing that grounded me was thinking of my mom. Because then I was like, oh, okay, I have my mother. This is who I am. I'm back on earth. This is everything. But it took me, that's what was weird. I've never had a dream where I had to really figure out who I was again. So
Wow. Wow. That's
yeah,
rad.
I loved it.
John
It's
Thomas.
trippy. My favorite is always going to be the Scream series, and they need to hurry up and get their shit straight with the seventh one. God damn it. But yeah, uh, always not a scary movie, but if you want to cry, a movie about dreams, what dreams may come. Mr. Robin Williams. Watch
Ooh.
that movie and
Oh.
cry. I loved it. It was so good. But yeah,
Mhm.
I don't want to cry.
we all need to cry
Then
sometimes.
laugh at it.
My favorite
Yes.
movie has and always will be The Lost Boys. So that is a recurring theme on this podcast, and it will never change
Never.
unless I'm trolling them, and in which
Yes.
case they know I'm lying.
It's true. She's done it a couple times.
It's true. Lost Boys and Fright Night.
Yeah.
Always, always, always going to be my top two.
I do have one more thing to say. I just want to thank Kristen for coming on because she's so awesome. Like I've never
Oh.
met you before, and I think that just these kind of conversations are just so interesting. And I think you're able to just tell it with such just grace, and just it just felt very easy for you, and just it was fun. Like I think like just listening to you, I just want to hear more and more. So I'm
Oh,
glad that you were able to
wow.
come on. And yeah, so
Yeah, this was awesome, you guys. I had such a great time, and thank you. Thank you for having me on. You guys been great.
And you can hear more and more at her
Yes.
podcast, the Paranorm Girl podcast, on all streaming platforms.
You beat me to it. But yes, BJ, go subscribe now.
Listen, listen, listen. And we would love to have you back on again in the future whenever you have a chance to. You have covered so many topics that it'd be nice to just be able to jump into different ones with you. You're always a pleasure to have on. And if you think she's a great guest, she's a phenomenal host as well. So,
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
all right, John Thomas.
Alrighty then. Thank you again, Kristen, for coming on. Absolute pleasure. Absolute blast. Can't wait to have you back on. And thank you to all of our listeners for listening to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
and I'm BJ Segura.
And if you have any questions, comments, episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 300podcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, please like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media. You don't want to miss amazing guests like Miss Kristen.
And if you're interested in merch, check out our website, 3hauntedpodcast.com. We've got all of your merch needs, including cute little 3 haunted teddy bears.
And bunnies.
Until next time.